Greetings, hi there. I'm Dr. Walter Jacobson. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. I've written the book Forgive to Win, and this is my Forgive to Win blog talk radio show. It's a live show right now, and it's a call-in show. So if you want to call in, that would be great. Yes, any questions, any clarifications, any issues that you'd like to share about relationships, love, communication, forgiveness. That's what the show is all about. I want to provide information, but I'd also like to get into calling and talking and getting a conversation going. Okay, so the deal is with relationships, they're incredibly important to us, right? And most people are really bad at them. Okay, really, really bad. People sabotage their relationships. They destroy relationships. Relationships start out loving and warm and affectionate, and so many of them turn into resentment and anger and bitterness, and breakups and divorces, or living together and just being really unhappy. And it doesn't have to be that way. Most of it's all about ego. We just so get stuck into keeping score and what he did to me and what she did to me and I did that and who does what and I'll never forget when, and we just pile on the garbage. We got that all that noise in our head. We hang on to the past. It's an amazing thing that most people treat strangers and acquaintances and business people and sort of friends much better than they treat their loved ones. It's unbelievable. The stuff that we do to our loved ones, we could really not get away with in the real world with other people because they just say get lost. But we know, for the most part, we know that we can be like kind of abusive and unloving and sarcastic and ridiculing and demeaning, and they're not going to go away. But the truth is, oftentimes they do go away. Or if they don't go away, what you reap, you sow. It comes back to you. It comes back to you in spades, and you get trashed. So what we do is we're sloppy, and we treat our loved ones really poorly, and we forget about being compassionate and being generous and being selfless and being considerate and loving and kind. We take them for granted, and it's wrong, and it's a huge mistake. And basically, and then we complain that we don't have the relationship that we want. And the bottom line is, well, no kidding, right? If you want to have a loving relationship, you got to be loving. If you want to be understood, you got to understand. If you want to be accepting, you got to accept. If you want to be forgiving, you've got to forgive. It's the bottom line. You got to give to get. Ultimately, if we would just follow the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated. But most of all, your loved ones, your family members, those you claim to care about most, those who you claim are the most important aspects of your life, treat them as you wish to be treated, and so much in the relationship would change. Okay, so be grateful, be generous, be unselfish. Don't assume the worst. Give the benefit of the doubt. So often our loved ones, our partners will say something to us and it'll really annoy us, and we'll get defensive or angry. We'll accuse them of attacking us, or and a lot of times it's not always that way. It's our own insecurity, our own fear, our own ego, our own low self-esteem that makes us misinterpret stuff. And a lot of times they don't necessarily mean to hurt us. They don't necessarily mean to say something that's unloving or inconsiderate or unkind. And so rather than just assume they are, if we could assume they're not, assume it's a misunderstanding, assume they're not perfect, it doesn't mean they don't care about us. And so we give them the benefit of the doubt, and don't assume the worst and start getting into a big fight over something that they said. A lot of this stuff comes down to don't sweat the small stuff. A lot of this comes down to choose your battles. Okay, in relationships, the best thing to do is tolerate a lot, overlook a lot, let go of a lot. Don't draw a line in the sand. Don't make a big deal out of stuff. Don't sweat it. So what if your partner says something stupid or embarrasses you in front of other people, or says something inconsiderate? You just remind yourself, they love me, they care about me. I don't have to assume that they want to hurt me. I don't have to go ballistic on this. Nobody's perfect. I do this stuff too. Yeah, I've said thoughtless, inconsiderate things too, and I've wanted them to overlook it and forgive me and be cool about it. So that's the way to go. This ties into the idea. This ties into the idea of, would you rather be right or happy? Now, a lot of times in relationships, we want to be right. We want to convince the other person, the partner, that they're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. They're wrong. We're right. They're bad. We're good. And we'll have fights to try to get the other person to capitulate, to finally give in and admit that we're right and they're wrong. Okay, so what happens is, if you do this, and perhaps you intimidate your partner into finally saying, yes, you're right, so your ego is satisfied, but you got a crappy relationship, because that person, your partner, is going to be resentful and bitter and angry and is going to take it out on you in other ways, so you're not going to be happy, and the relationship is not going to be happy. So do you really need to be right? Do you really need to insist that you're right? Maybe not. Maybe you can just accept that, okay, so we have a difference of opinion. Or I made my point, I said what I believe to be true, and they can take it or leave it. They don't have to agree with me. They don't have to, it's okay. It's okay. Would you rather be right or happy? Remind yourself of that when you're in the midst of a major argument over who's right and who's wrong. And if you can, here's the thing, if you can rise above the battlefield, if in the midst of a fight, if you can step back and tell yourself, now wait a second, I love her, she loves me, do we really want to be fighting with each other? Wouldn't it be better if we just had a milkshake and watched TV and held hands? Yeah, rise above the battlefield, decide to break out of the mindset of the opposition and the aggression, and just say, hey, you know what? This is crazy, this is silly, we care about each other, we love each other, give me a hug. Let's put the crap behind us. Let's put all the resentments, all the trash from the past behind us, and let's remember what's good in this relationship. Let's count our blessings. Let's be grateful for what we've got, even though, so we're not perfect. We get on each other's nerves once in a while, but it's okay. So, if you can rise above the battlefield and step in there and just, not engage, and that's the key. That's the key when you're fighting. When you're fighting and yelling and arguing with somebody, you're really not effective. You are communicating, but you're not effectively communicating, because no one's listening to each other. You're just barking your position back and forth, back and forth. You're not really dialoguing. There's no real interaction. There's, it's pointless. Worse than pointless, you end up saying stupid and impulsive and things that you don't mean, and so it's a big mistake when you're fighting and yelling at each other to continue to do it. And the key is to disengage. Very important principle. If you're just yelling at each other or you're fighting and getting nowhere, disengage. Go to your separate corners. Go to your room. Take a walk. Just say, hey, look, we're not communicating. We're just yelling at each other. We're not listening to each other. This is a bad idea. Let's just go away and calm down, and let's each of us think about this, and and maybe in a couple of hours after dinner we'll talk, or maybe in the morning we'll talk, or maybe over the weekend we'll bring this up again, but and give it another chance. But if you're just yelling, you're just abusing each other, and you're not going to get anywhere. And so the important thing is to disengage. Another great technique is when you're in an argument, you want to validate and then counterpoint. Okay, a lot of times when people are fighting, someone says, well, you did that, or, and then the other person says, you're out of your mind, you're crazy, you're nuts, have you taken your medicine? You calm down, you're whacked. We suddenly we're throwing all sorts of names, all sorts of shames, all sorts of invalidations. And first of all, you never should be calling names. You should never be going down that road. But the point is, once you do that, the other person is going to get really angry and defensive and going to start attacking back and calling you names back, and and you're never going to make your point. So if somebody says to you, you did that, you said that, and that was unloving and that was wrong, right? What you got to do is calm down, step back, take your time to think about what you want to say, and then first validate and then counterpoint. So you say, hey, I can appreciate why it sounded like that to you, or I can appreciate why you thought I was inconsiderate, or you thought I was attacking you. I understand why you look at it that way. Or, however, this is what I meant. Or you could say, as a validation, you could say, hey, look, I want to tell you, I love you, I care about you, you're really important to me. But I gotta say, the counterpoint, but I gotta say, that's not what I meant. You misunderstood. It's, and this is what I meant. So the point is, if you validate first, what you do is, it's very disarming. It's a way to not get them immediately defensive and angry so they can hear what you want to say. So it's really important to validate that you've listened, that you've heard them, And once you acknowledge that you've listened and you've heard them, that means a lot. Then you can negotiate. Then you can compromise. And that's a really important thing in relationships. You got to negotiate. You got to compromise. It's not, you got to try to just like in any kind of negotiation, the whole goal of a really good negotiation is to try to get everybody's needs met. Now, oftentimes that's not possible, but you try to do the best you can to hear everybody's needs and try to somehow get everyone's needs met to some degree. But if you're going to take an all or nothing position, my way or the highway, or no, this is the way it's going to be, and you're not going to give any deference to their needs, your relationship is going to fail. So it can't always be this. I want to do this. I want to eat this food. I want to watch this. I want us to go here. No, I don't want to go shopping with you, or no, I don't want to go to that movie. You got to balance it out. You got to give and take. When you got a kid, and the kid's growing up, you can't, you can, but it's not a good idea to say to the kid or say to, I don't want to go see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I don't want to go see the Little Mermaid. I want to go see Live Free and Die Hard. It's not going to fly. You've got to put your own needs aside. For a number of years, in fact, while you're helping to nurture and support your child and do the things that the child needs and that the child wants. And you got to put your needs on the back burner. Well, in a relationship with a partner, it's not quite that cut and dry, but still, it's important that sometimes you put your needs on the back burner. Sometimes you give. Sometimes you do things for them without needing anything in return. Sometimes it's really important. And it's important in general to let your partner know that you appreciate them, that that you're grateful that they're in your life. It's important to compliment them. Hey, you look nice. I like what you're wearing. I like what you did with your hair today. The more you can spot things to say that are kind and loving and considerate. Hey, can I get you something? I'm going out to the store. It's unbelievable how many people don't do things like that. How many people are very self-centered and thoughtless. So, or they're passive-aggressive because they're angry and they're carrying resentment from the past. On some level, they want to hurt their partner, so they're going to go do something and not bring something back, or not call them when they know that the person wants them to call. And so you do these passive-aggressive things. It's picked up as passive-aggressive. Okay, so you don't slap them in the face, you're not screaming at them, but you're doing these subtle little things that on some level is going to bother them, and it's just an attack. And when you attack, you are just damaging the relationship, and you're damaging your own self-esteem as well. So it's not a good idea. Okay, so, right, compromise and negotiate. When you're disagreeing, or arguing, don't interrupt. Really important concept. One person speaks, the other person listens. The other person does not interrupt. Don't assume you know what they're going to say. Don't complete the sentence in your head and then jump in and say what you want to say. Again, that's disrespectful. It's invalidating, and it's just causes problems because then the other person's going to get angry and defensive, and you're not going to have a chance to have any real discourse. So learn to control yourself. Learn to not be impulsive and aggressive in saying things or interrupting. You let them say what they're going to say. Now, if they're going to talk for like 8.5 minutes, and not let you get a word in edgewise, then at some point you got to say, hey, excuse me, but this is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. I appreciate you're upset. Validate. I appreciate you're very upset and you want to make your point, but you got to give me a chance to respond. Okay, so don't interrupt. One person listens, the other person speaks, and you go back and forth, and hopefully both of you stay calm and can try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Try to understand what the other person is going through. Try to see it from their point of view if you possibly can. And if you possibly can, you have a much greater likelihood that you'll be able to reach a meeting of the minds, and you'll be able to nurture and support each other. Okay, don't keep score. Avoid passive-aggressive behavior. Avoid yelling, threatening, and intimidating. Oh yeah, avoid displacing your frustration onto them. Okay, what does that mean? Besides me drinking some water. Okay, so you're at work and your boss is giving you a hard time. It's really stressful, and your boss is telling you gotta, here's a big pile of work you got to add on to the work you've already got. And the boss is rude and disrespectful and nasty, and you're not making a lot of money for everything that you're doing, and you're really pissed off, and you're really angry at your boss. And what do? You come home, and your wife doesn't have the food on the table exactly when you wanted, or whatever, something silly and stupid, meaningless, and you yell at her, or you yell at him, and what you're doing is you're displacing all your aggression and tension from your boss onto your partner. Okay, so rather than deal with it appropriately, but just telling yourself, I'm really upset at my boss, I got to find a way to decompress, and I shouldn't take it out on my loved ones, that's just wrong, but that's what people do. It's a defense mechanism, but it's a bad defense mechanism, and you've got to learn to stop doing it. And it's not enough to say, I had a hard day, and my boss is giving me a hard time, so sorry. Yeah, it's nice to say you're sorry, but at the same point, it's nice not to do it at all. So you got to start learning to catch yourself and not do these things. And a very important principle is saying you're sorry. If you do something wrong to your partner, you need to acknowledge it. You need to take responsibility. You need to say, that was wrong what I did. I'm sorry. And then you make an amends. You do the best you can. And what you could say, I don't agree. I still don't agree with what you did. I still think what you did was wrong. But me yelling at you was abusive and wrong, and I'm sorry for my part in yelling at you. However, I'm not capitulating on this other stuff. I still disagree with you over here, but I'm sorry for my part in that. You take the high ground. You always be a role model of right action. And regardless of whether your partner is gracious or not, and steps up to the plate and apologizes as well for his or her stuff, you do the right thing. You do the right thing. Okay, right, I was only kidding. People do this in relationships, and it is maddening, and it's baloney. It's just a way to get off the hook for saying something rude and unloving, something you really did mean. You weren't kidding. Most of the time, someone will say something, and they'll get a really bad reaction, and then they'll say, I was only kidding. Because once you say I was only kidding, then how can the other person really be mad at you? Because it was just a joke. You were just kidding. So the dialogue ends, but you weren't kidding. You were angry, and you said something at that moment that you meant that was hurtful and unloving. And either you need to own it by saying, you're right, that wasn't wrong. That was wrong of me. I wasn't kidding, but I didn't really mean it. Or you say, or you own it, and you go, it is true. This is how I feel. If you're going to be pissed off at me because I'm telling you the truth about how I feel, go ahead. But this is what it is. Right? It's all about everybody taking responsibility. It's all about everybody taking responsibility. And the more you do this, the more you role model right action, the better you're going to be. The better relationship is going to be. Okay. Okay. When things don't make sense, when you're arguing and things don't make sense, you're trying to be really logical, and you say, and someone comes back to you, your partner comes back to you with something that just makes no sense. All right. There's no point in arguing over something that makes no sense, or trying to get them to prove to them how it makes no sense. You can cut to the chase. If it makes no sense, there's another agenda. There's a hidden agenda. There's something they're not telling you. There's a real issue underneath all the hocus pocus. And if you just recognize that and start to look for it and start to explore it and start to question it and look, you're much better off. You'll save yourself a lot of time. don't bring up the past unless the complaint that is happening is a repetition of the past, right? So otherwise, you can't. If you're angry at something that your partner did, 2 days ago, and you didn't bring it up then, you didn't make it an issue then, and then 2 days later, or 2 months later, or 2 years later, you go, hey, remember when you did that? That was wrong. That's uncool. That's uncool. Yeah, you need to, at the time, you need to deal with it at the time and say what your grievance was at the time that it happens. Or if something has happened and they said they were sorry 6 years ago, carrying that resentment and then being angry at them over, if they put the salad fork in the right place, again, displacing all your aggression and anger from something they did 6 years ago, it's just wrong. You don't bring up the past. You stay in the present moment. Unless the complaint, what they're doing now and what you're upset about now, is a repetition of the past. Then you have an opportunity to reflect and relate back to that past. Okay. Everything is love or a call for love. I brought this up in an earlier show, so I don't want to belabor the point if you heard the earlier show, but basically, this is really important. If you can do this, man, it's going to be cool. And that is this. My example last time, real quick, was you go to a party, the guy thinks his wife is flirting with a neighbor, he gets really upset, he comes home, he starts screaming at her and yelling at her, and blaming her for being disrespectful, blah blah blah. And then so what he's doing, he's abusive. He's verbally abusive. He's attacking her. But what does he really want? He doesn't really want to attack her. He's insecure. He's jealous. He's afraid. He's afraid he's not cool like the other guy. He's not good enough, that she's going to leave him. It's his abandonment issues that are jumping up. So really, he's feeling very threatened, and he needs to be reassured. So if you are sitting there getting abused by this guy, saying, oh, you're worthless, you disrespected me, blah, blah, blah. If you can somehow rise above the battlefield, recognize that this is actually a call. It looks like an attack, it feels like an attack, but it's a call for love. And if you can recognize that it's a call for love, then the only response would be not to attack back and scream back and call him all sorts of names and foolishness. The best response would be to be loving, to say, look, I can see that you're upset. I understand why you're upset, but look, I got to tell you, I worked all day, or I'm taking care of the kids all day. We got to go to a party. I had a glass of wine. I was just having fun. I wasn't thinking about this guy or flirting with him or wanting to have anything to do with him. I love you. I care about you. You validate. I understand you feel this way, but I love you. I care about you. Give me a hug. You rise above the battlefield. Recognize that everything is love or a call for love. Okay. What else? Right. Boundaries. You need to respect boundaries. If somebody says, look, for example, we're screaming at each other, this isn't working, we need to disengage, I'm going to go to my room and read, and you need to calm down, and we'll talk later. And then you follow them around the room, and you bang on the door, and you scream from outside the other side of the door, because you need to have this resolved now. That's abusive, but it's also an abuse of the boundary. It's not respecting the boundary, and it's wrong. And in relationships, people have to establish boundaries and maintain them. So in relationships, you've got to tell your partner, this behavior is unacceptable. You just can't do it. You got to establish a boundary, and and maintain it. And once you say that this, I can't have this, you need to treat me better, for example, and if they don't, then there really has to be consequences. You have to address this. But when someone gives a boundary to you, you want to try to respect it. And maintain it, even if you disagree with it. And then that's a conversation about disagreeing with the boundary. Okay, what else? Okay, when you're arguing, stick to the facts. Don't exaggerate. Don't misrepresent. Don't lie. Don't deny. All right? Don't accuse them of something they didn't say or do. Don't distort what happened because your version puts you in a better light. Don't say you never or you always, because it's just not true. In general, it's not true. And if you say to your partner, you're always doing this, or you never do this, immediately in their head, it's like, well, that's a bunch of crap. That's not true. I don't always do this. And suddenly you're arguing about whether he always or never does this, and you're not really discussing about the fact of what he really did. So it's much better to say, you do this a lot. or this really hurts me when you do this, and you tend to do this a lot, or, in general, you don't really seem to be very considerate. Sometimes you are, but a lot of times you're not. And this is one of these examples where you're not. You're not being unloving. You're not being kind. So if you do this all or nothing thing, another thing people do is they demonize and over idealize their partners. So like one day, their partner, hey, you're the greatest partner in the whole world. You're the best. I love you. You're fantastic. And then, they do something to upset you, and now you're garbage. You're worthless. You stink. I don't know why I stay with you. Just in general, we have to be more conscious. That's the whole key to this whole discussion. I think I covered all my notes here. But that's the whole key to relationships, is you've got to be aware. You got to be vigilant over your own thoughts, your own words, your own actions and behaviors, your own body language, and you've got to try to listen to what's going on and step back instead of impulsively responding. I have this technique called stop, look, and listen. So if you're really angry or upset from something your partner has done, what I suggest you do is stop. Don't immediately open your mouth and say something like off the top of your head. Stop. Look at what's going on. Look at the dynamic. Listen, and then listen to your higher self. Listen to your mantras, your affirmations. Hopefully they'll be something along the lines of everything is love, or a call for love, or anger hurts, forgiveness heals, or I can see peace instead of this, or let me find a way to validate and then counterpoint, or let me stop interrupting. The more you use these tools I'm offering to you, the more you contemplate them, you get them into your toolkit, into your skill set, your relationship skill set. You start to use these, you start to practice them. Your relationship is guaranteed to get better. Acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, love, right? Generosity. Get out of yourself. Get out of your ego. So important to forgive and to be compassionate and to be generous. Let go of resentments, let go of grievances, let go of judgments, let go of attack thoughts, let go of pettiness, let go of gossip, let go of ridicule and sarcasm. Find ways to support your partner, to nurture your partner, to boost their ego, to make them feel good about themselves.
90 seconds.
90 seconds, and then we're off the air. Okay, right, so I think I just about covered it. Okay, so I'm doing this every week at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. This is the Forgive to Win Blog Talk Radio Show. And I got other shows now that you can archive and download. It's all about cognitive tools and spiritual techniques.
60 seconds.
Cognitive tools and spiritual techniques to help people end self-sabotaging behaviors, to help people get out of their way, to help people improve their own physical well-being, their relationships, to repair their own self-esteem, and to end self-sabotaging behaviors and improve the quality of their lives across the board. It's all based upon my book, Forgive to Win, which is available in various places and of course Amazon, and I've got a paperback version, I've got a Kindle and ebook version, I've got an audio version. It's a real quick read, very inexpensive, very down to earth. It's got in it what's called the Forgiveness Diet, and it's a structured program that once you get into the habit of doing these things, esteemable acts of kindness, forgiveness, acceptance,
10 seconds.
letting go of judgments, the more you practice this, not only do you heal yourself, you're on the way to healing the planet. You're on the way to changing this crazy world we live in. Take care. Peace be with you.